they have out to operating units. So we concentrated on production facilities and the facilities that they use to put the material into actual weapons to be delivered. And we have had quite a bit of success, and without getting into specifics, I think I can say that we have done considerable damage to their ability to continue producing chemical weapons. But they still have a chemical weapons capability. Their artillery can fire chemical weapons, their multiple launch rocket systems, their free rocket over ground systems, and their Air Force does have that capability, so is still a threat to Allied forces in the region. With respect to their biological warfare facilities, we have gone after those and we created quite a problem for them, I think. We have seriously damaged those facilities. There was a story earlier today about the infant formula factory. It is not an infant formula factory, no more than the Rabta chemical plant in Libya made aspirin. It was a biological weapons facility, of that we are sure, and we have taken it out. And we will continue to seek out any other facilities that we believe are involved in the production of biological weapons. With respect to their National Command Authority and their command and control systems, they are very good at this. They have redundant systems, resilient systems, they have workarounds, they have alternatives, and they are still able to command their forces. They have not lost command and control of their forces or of the country, but they are doing it without benefit of their Ministry of Defense, their Defense Intelligence Center, their main communications nodes, and they're doing it for the most part on generator power because we have taken care of the central power system within the city. He still does retain the ability to command and control. We are also now turning our attention increasingly to military production facilities, how he makes bombs, how he makes weapons, how he makes repair parts. This is a target category that we will go after at our leisure over time. We're in no hurry. We don't want to waste sorties on things that are further down the priority list if we can get to them further down the priority list. The most significant problem we have right now are the Scuds. There's no doubt about it. When you think of what Saddam Hussein has done for the past week, he has not thrown a single military punch back at us. What he has done is use this weapon of terror, the Scuds, as was mentioned earlier by the Secretary, to go after populations, to go after cities. Why? As a weapon of terror, to try to expand the conflict, to try to draw in the Israelis, and I must say I'm extremely pleased with the restraint that the Israeli government has shown so far. But it is a vexing problem. They are mobile systems, and some of them are very sophisticated Soviet mobile systems. Others are nothing more than a flatbed truck with a rail on it that they've locally fabricated. We only have estimates of how many of these weapons they have, but we have made it a high priority to locate these weapons and to go after them, and a significant part of our capability is directed toward that Scud facilities, those Scud facility and mobile Scuds. Now, I know there's been a great deal of interest in bomb damage assessment. I wish I could show you the photographs that we have access to. But because of sources and methods, and because we are in an ongoing operation, and because we do not want an enemy to have knowledge of what our real capabilities are, we cannot show you those photographs. What I have done instead is I've made some line drawings, had some line drawings made. They're rather crude, they're kind of cartoonish, but I just want to give you a sense of what our analysts look at, and I will assure you that what I'm about to show you comes directly from the actual imagery, but we have obviously done it in a way that it does not give away any of our capability. This was a large production facility, part of his military infrastructure. It was struck by precision weapons in the first couple of days of the operation. And this is a very accurate reflection of what the thing looks like, total destruction. And the point I want to make is our analysts can see this to this level of detail and give us high assurance that this place has been destroyed.
Okay? Did you say what was produced there at all?
It was an unconventional production facility. Here is an example of a bunker complex, and it's a case where we went after selected buildings. These two were vetted. They had barriers around them. We went after them with precision weapons. went after these with precision weapons. I think this one was done over a period of a couple of days, Mike. You go strike it, you get an assessment back of the amount of damage you have inflicted on the facility. You go back and strike it again. This has received enough damage that I would suspect that the targeteers over in Centaf are not going to waste a sortie at this time going back and taking care of this last remaining building. These were the key ones. These three fed into what was happening at these two facilities. And so we have essentially destroyed this, even though there might still be a building standing. And I'm just using it as illustrative of the process through which our bomb damage assessment people go through. This next one is a case where initially we went in, destroyed, here's the bunker complex, destroyed this bunker. This one was hit once and we had to go back and do it again to get the level of damage we needed. This one was also struck, and as the analyst looks at it, part of it is still intact, the top. This part, the lower part, has been blown through, but since the analyst can't see what happened under the part that still has a roof over it, he will not declare this destroyed. They tend to err on the conservative side. This one is completely undamaged because there was no need to waste a sortie or risk a pilot going against that one. We knew what we were looking for in this complex, so we are satisfied with this target, even if somebody were to come along and say, aha, you only got 75% or 80% because this one is still there. We didn't need to hit that one. It has no relevance to the rest of the facility. And I don't know what else we got back there, Mike. And this is an example which I'd like to put up for my British colleagues. One of the things we did early on to deal with the airfields and to keep the Air Force on the ground was to essentially interdict the airfield so they couldn't be used. And you could do that very quickly by trying to crater the runways. In this particular case, this shows the British weapon system, which I think was briefed earlier out of Riyadh, I believe, by a British officer, but it's the JP-233, which goes across the runway and is very effective at cutting concrete. And it will cut up the concrete, break it up, so that the airfield cannot be used for some period of hours, and I don't want to get into how long that might be. It depends on the airfield, depends on the kind of concrete, depends on the kind of cut that's made. And you would use this weapon system and other weapon systems that we have to try to cut this airfield in a number of places to keep it from being used for a while. And then we can come back to it at our leisure and take care of what is on that airfield. In this case, the pilot elected to cut these taxiways here so that the aircraft in these hardened aircraft shelters could not get out to the active runway to take off. And that's that. Let me conclude there by saying, as the Secretary said, I'm satisfied with the campaign. We have been trying to tell everybody in the beginning that we would do it in time and do it as smartly as we can. We're in no hurry. We are not looking to have large numbers of casualties. But it is an integrated campaign, each part of the campaign bearing some relationship to the ultimate objective of ejecting the Iraqi army from Kuwait. Thank you. Secretary? He gets the question. We'll both be happy to answer questions.
Mr. Secretary, given what you've told us today, can you tell us if you think that the Scud search has had any effect on the campaign? And if you do believe what success rates you've had here, then does that mean that you're able to go on a little bit more quickly to some of the phases earlier than you might have thought when this all started?
Well, the Scud search has been important because it has not only the problem of his being able to launch against Saudi Arabia or Israel, but obviously there are major policy questions, major political questions involved in the issue of how you deal with the Scud problem. Because, of course, as the chairman mentioned, we've been pleased, as the president said, that the Israelis have restrained themselves up till now and not retaliated and gotten involved in the conflict. But that's a delicate proposition. And, our ability to enhance, our ability to deal with the Scud threat makes it easier for us to deal with the broader policy questions that are involved. And it's a question of diverting resources and deciding how much you're going to put against the Scud problem itself.
It hasn't created a problem at all for the rest of the country.
I wouldn't say it's created a problem in that sense. I think it would be fair to say that systems that are focused on dealing with the Scud threat are not available to deal with other threats. But we always knew we were going to have to deal with the Scud threat. We always knew that was a potential problem. We've assumed he may have chemical warheads to go on the Scud, so until we've got a high degree of assurance that we've dealt with that problem, we will continue to devote resources to it.
Secretary Cheney, you said the campaign is going very well. The first thing you cited was the air superiority. Do you really feel that you were really challenged by the Iraqi army? Number one, you said they really have been in the bunkers. Number two, you talked about command and control each day. But there are many reports saying that Saddam Hussein is 4 stories below, underneath the presidential palace and ferrying between the defense ministry. Number three, you talked about taking out the nuclear sites, but many people felt early on that this would not be a long-term threat. So do you feel that possibly you could be overly predicting a rosy type of outcome in light of this?
No, I tried in my remarks towards the close to focus on the fact that we have to anticipate there'll be additional surprises, that you can by no means count him out yet, given the size force he has, that he could try to find some way to surge his Air Force all at once or go after targets that he's not gone after yet. As the chairman mentioned, we haven't really seen any aggressive military response by him to date. He's basically gone to ground and hunkered down, and the only safe assumption for us to make, especially when we're talking with the press, is, be cautious here. We're trying to be cautious, and no one wants to declare that he no longer constitutes a threat. That would be a very serious mistake.
Quick follow-up. So you think this could be a strategy, as many military analysts believe, to inflict maximum casualties?
It could well be a strategy, and based in part upon the fact that he has not yet been able to find a way to deal with our capabilities.
Secretary Cheney.
Yeah, right. So, you mentioned, General Powell mentioned 2 times Soviet air defenses, Soviet Scud missiles. How much military cooperation are you getting from the Soviet Union in dealing with this?
I don't want to answer that.
It's good to be the boss.
No, all right. I had general discussions when I was in Moscow in October, a meeting with senior Soviet officials and Marshal Yazov about the situation in the Gulf. I think it would be fair to say that it was their view that Saddam Hussein did not possess any significant capability that we were unaware of. They described the systems that they'd provided to him as systems that were generally available, like T-72 tanks to their allies. Specifically, we talked about the Scud. He made it clear then that there was no guidance system for the Scud. It's just a ballistic missile that goes wherever it goes. It's not a highly accurate or a very sophisticated system. I think probably the greatest 2 contributions the Soviets have made to this venture. One has been their cooperation and support of the policy in the United Nations, which has been very significant. And the other is that they have shut off the flow of arms exports to Iraq. The situation we're faced with today would be far more difficult if Saddam Hussein were able to get resupplied in terms of the key pieces of military equipment that we've been working to destroy.
Sir, how effective have the Iraqis been at repairing the damage to their airfields and other targets? And how effective have they been at fooling you with decoys in their Scud missile department?
They use decoys. They're quite good at it. I'll let the chart I used earlier as to which airfields are active speak for itself. They obviously are hard at work repairing some of the damage. We've seen it. We've also seen them paint damage on airfields to spoof us into thinking that it is still damaged, and therefore we don't have to worry about it. There are also reports that they are trying to put out dummy Scud systems. This isn't a surprise to us, because they have a long history and did it throughout the Iran-Iraq war of using dummies in order to confuse their enemy. They probably are also making some efforts to take totally destroyed facilities and cover them over quickly to make them appear as if they're not totally destroyed, to lure us into coming back. But I think our analysts and our targeteers are quite sophisticated. They're the best in the world. And they will be sensitive to the possibility of dummy installations and false repairs.
One at a time, please. Just raise your hand and we'll call.
General
Wood on the air power question. You've indicated 19 killed in air combat maneuvers, or if you would, dogfights, another 22 on the ground, or at least that was the inference I got.
It's a number that changes every few hours as we get BDA assessment. And yeah, got 3 more just as we walked in, 2 Badgers and some Badgers